Many people have been forced to flee their countries from conflict and persecution, have also had to flee destroyed homes, and some have had their homes occupied. For UNHCR, an adequate housing means having a space which is safe and secure, and this is especially important for people who have been forced to flee from their countries. It also means a shelter from the elements like rain, wind, and snow. And it also means a space in which you can have a dignified life, which promotes well-being and the privacy of family members.
So this is an episode whereby Scott talks law. If you are new in my YouTube channel, I kindly request for your subscription, and you are also welcome to my YouTube channel. Feel free to interact in the comment section. Post your comments, your views, your opinion on how I should conduct these lectures, on the improvements, and anything that you feel to comment there, or any way you feel to interact with me there in the comment section. Good. So today it's another episode whereby we are talking about the introduction to forced migration. Of course, you know this is a 1.2 unit, and this unit basically deals with the persons of concern, which we are going to look at today. The person of concern, we have 5 categories of persons of concern. We have the refugees, we have the internally displaced persons, we have the returnees, we have asylum seekers, and the stateless persons. There are 5 categories. So, migration is the movement of people from one particular place to another. Of course, I know you know that. So, these asylum seekers and these persons of concern they are important, when you're dealing with the forced migration, these are the substantive aspect or substantive things that you need to know. So we are going to look at them. To begin with the internally displaced persons, first we are going to define who is. First of all, let's look at the causes of migration. What might cause someone to move from one particular place to another? Maybe for education purposes. You feel like the education being offered in a place is not that suitable, that, or it's not the way you want to learn, or that education is maybe low standards. So you decide to go to a country whereby they offer that quality education that you need. Career enhancement. You have done your degree. You need to do a master's in maybe in Germany or in the UK. So you migrate. You are a migrant to the UK. Overpopulation. Their population is so there's high population. Mostly this happens in Africa countries. The countries in Africa, there's high population because the people there, the population there is high. So people will be forced to move to countries whereby the population is favorable to them, and whereby they can survive in that population. So we have overpopulation. We also have social and religious reasons. You move to a particular place because of your religious reasons. Poverty, better healthcare, and political causes. You have seen people moving to India to get that quality treatment. So under proper healthcare, people may migrate to countries like India and countries which give that good treatment or quality treatment. So under the persons of concerns, we are going to start with the internally displaced persons. So by defining who an IDP is, we are going to be guided by Article 1 of the Kampala Convention on the IDPs. So Article 1 of the Kampala Convention defines an IDP as a person or a group of persons who have been forced to flee or leave their homes or habitual residence, in particular to avoid general violence, violation of human rights, natural or human disasters, and have not crossed any internationally recognized state boundaries. Not that word. They haven't crossed any internationally recognized state boundaries, because we are going to look at the elements that define an internally displaced persons. So by defining them, we are going to get the elements. So these are people who have just been forced to flee or leave their countries. They are not their countries. They are habitual residents. And to avoid general violence or violation of human rights. We have seen the issues to deal with we have seen the LGBTQ issues or cases. There are countries like Uganda which prohibit the LGBTQ people. So these people might feel that their human rights are being violated, and they will be forced to flee to other countries whereby they can practice their LGBTQ issues without being interfered with, or the other regions. So for this scenario, it's not about countries, because they haven't crossed any internationally recognized state border. So they might move in other regions within the countries whereby their rights can't be violated. So these people, when they move to those areas, maybe they feel that there they can practice their LGBTQ stuff without being interfered with. So that might be the reason as to why these people are forced to be internally displaced. Another reason, we have natural or human disaster. Commonly this is earthquake under natural disasters, and we experienced earthquake in the Turkey area, whereby the people were forced to be displaced because of earthquakes. You might not know the time when the earthquake is going to occur, because it occurs suddenly and you are just forced to move from that place. Maybe people might die as a result, and you are forced to flee. So it's also another reason. We also have natural and human disasters, and they haven't crossed any internationally recognized border. So the elements that define who an internally displaced person are involuntary character movement, where you move involuntarily because you can't move voluntarily. When you move voluntarily, then you have migrated. You haven't been forced to, or you're not an internally displaced person. The second element to leave is to leave your home or place of residence, habitual residence. You have been forced to leave. So if that involuntary character of being forced to leave your home or particular residence is the one that will cause you to be internally displaced. So the first element is the involuntary character. The second element is the being forced to leave your place, that place of habitual, and the third element is to movement occurs within the borders. And the another element is to avoid armed violations or armed conflicts or violations of human rights. There are the armed conflicts and violations of human rights. An example of armed conflicts is the 2007-2008 post-election violence. So this is an example that brings that aspect of internally displacement, whereby people were being displaced, and around 663,991 people were displaced as a result of the war or the post-election violence. So out of this population, I think around 300,000 people they ended up living in camps, and I think around 13,000 people died as a result of the conflict of 2007-2008 post-election violence. So out of these people, 74,254 people were denied to move from that country from Kenya to other countries. So that is the scenario. That's an example that tries to bring out this armed conflict thing that causes internal displacement. So we have the legal regimes that deal with the internally displaced persons, and the legal regime, to start with Kampala Convention, that defines who a refugee is, as we have seen from Article 1 of the Kampala Convention, is the first regime. So this Kampala Convention is the first regime. It was established in October 2009, and it is a supplement of the 1998 UN Guiding Principles on the IDPs, just a supplement to supplement the 1998 UN Guiding Principle. Article 1, as you have seen, defines who an IDP is of the Kampala Convention. So the second regime is the Great Lakes Protocol. So on the IDPs, it's the second regime on the IDP. The Great Lake Protocol, it is just created to create the developed and sustainable continent. This purpose is to just create the developed and sustainable continent that ensures sustainability and all other future developments. So it's the Great Lake Protocol, the second regime. So the third regime, I think, is the Constitution of Kenya 2010, if it is in Kenya, Article 2, 5, and 6, that provides that any law that is internationally recognized or any international covenant or treaty shall form part of the laws of Kenya. So that is the Constitution of Kenya 2010 under Article 2, Sub-Article 5 and Article 2, Sub-Article 6. Any rule, treaty or convention that is internationally recognized shall form part of the laws of Kenya. So we also have IDP Act number 56 of 2012, and case studies and case laws. Under case studies, we shall consider the Enroy's People's case, the Mutual Welfare Society versus Kenya Railways Authority, and the 2007/2008 post-election violence, and we also have the case studies. So let's move to the refugees, and we shall define who a refugee is. So Article 31 of the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees is where we get the definition of a refugee, or the definition might also be bought from Article 3, Article 1 of the Refugees Act, Section 3, Section 3, Section 1 of the Refugees Act. So a refugee is a person. A person shall be a refugee if such person, being outside his or her country of nationality and owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership to a particular social group, political opinion, and unable, owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail himself to seek protection of his country of nationality or habitual country. So there are elements that define who a refugee is. So these elements must be there. Without this element, then that is not a refugee. The element number one is the well-founded fear. This person must have that well-founded fear. And this well-founded fear is like you have experienced this thing, and this thing is the one that has caused you to maybe flee, and you just remember that thing, that it is well-founded in you, that you can't even want to be associated with that thing again. It is just that well-founded fear, that will cause you to flee from your particular country to another. And the second element is race. Race will cause someone to flee, and religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, political opinion, and the last one is unable or unwilling to return. There are 7 elements. So I think we are done with the refugees and the stateless people, the refugees and the IDPs. So next time we are going to look at the stateless people, asylum seekers, and all the other persons of concern that we haven't dealt with. So we have facts and figures in that deal with the countries, the facts and figures in countries, particular countries. So before that, I just want us to look at, because we are dealing with the refugee things, let us look at these 5 major countries that have experienced the largest number of refugees incidents. So we are going to watch this clip, which is going to help us understand these countries, like Syria, which has had 6.6 million. I think it is the leading countries when it comes to matters to deal with the refugees, because Syria has experienced the highest population of refugees, 6.6, and I think after Syria is Venezuela. I think it's Afghanistan. Afghanistan is around 2.7, 2.7 if I'm not wrong, or 4 point something. And Venezuela also. South Sudan is 2.7. I think it's the one that is 2.2, South Sudan, and Myanmar is 1.1. So let's watch this video and we shall be ready to. So as you have seen from that video, that tries is just trying to bring out the figures or the countries that have experienced the highest amount of refugees, or the highest population of refugees. So we also have facts and figures in countries like Ethiopia, DRC, Kenya. So as in Kenya, as Ethiopia has experienced 3.19 million refugees or displaced people. For Ethiopia has experienced 3.19 million people who have been displaced. And Ethiopia is a semi-arid place, and out of this, 20% of the population in 2009 was displaced as a result of climatic factors. 80% was displaced as a result of wars and all other factors that of violence, and around 340 something people were able to be reinstated to their original area. DRC, I think it is 4.1 million, I'm not sure. And other countries like Kenya, 663,921 people were displaced during the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Out of these, 350,000 people sought sanctuary, and 373,921 people were absorbed in communities. 13,000 people died, of course, and 78,274 people were denied access, were banned from crossing the country. So I think it has been an enjoyable lesson, of course. And the next lesson we are going to look at the other classes of persons of concern, the stateless person and the asylum seekers. So I'm just expecting you to subscribe, like, comment, share, comment in the comment section, share this video so that it can reach many people, and that many people get educated and get to know who refugees are, and get to know what is their role when it comes to dealing with these refugees things. So I think There are countries which think that refugees are just people who come to deplete the economy and to bother them or interfere with their comfort, and they're just people who are of no value. But that is not the reason. They should know that these people are just people like us, and according to they are just human being by virtue of being human being, and they should not be discriminated on the basis of gender, nationality, race, or opinion, according to according to the UN Convention on Human Rights. They are just people like us, so we should treat them the same way we want to be treated, because we do never know. We might also be refugees in other countries, then we expect to be treated in a better way than what in way we treat those refugees. So we should treat refugees in our country in a good way, in a better way that we expect ourselves to be treated in one day when we will be refugees in other countries, or we might also be refugees. We never know what the future holds. So that is the message of today, and that is the end of my lecture. Please keep on staying in touch, because there are more lectures that are coming, and just subscribe for those who have not subscribed. I wish you a good day.